Welcome to the B2B Digital Marketer Podcast, a podcast helping you to end your struggle with digital marketing, helping you to pave a new and better path to target and capture your ideal customer. Each week, we teach you how insiders and experts debunk the dreary and become engines of innovation. Now, here's your host, Jim Rembach.
Okay, B2B DM gang, I'm excited today because we have somebody on the show who's going to actually give you the opportunity to totally rethink what you've been doing and seeing if you're putting the human in your marketing. Now, Ethan Beute is the chief evangelist of BombBomb and the co-author of the book Rehumanize Your Business. And I also had his co-author on my other podcast, The Fast Leader Show, Steve Passanelli. It was episode 236. And we had a really good discussion that I think we're going to tap into a little bit here, but we're going to give this discussion, a really, clear focus on how we can impact the B2B digital marketer's life and overall ROI and impact on the business. So thanks for joining me, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it. We're getting to know each other so well. I also spent some time with you on a previous podcast, and it's been a pleasure.
That's right. Ethan is also the host of the Customer Experience podcast, which I had the pleasure of being on. We had a good time there. And so we're just expanding this relationship. Who knows?
So good. Yeah.
Other things coming down in the future. But if you could give us a little bit of background on this particular topic of B2B digital marketing and some of the passions that you have for it.
Sure. I came to it a bit by chance. I came up in local television marketing and promotion. So I was creating campaigns and spots for television stations like your local ABC or NBC or Fox station, and running teams of people doing the same. And I met the two co-founders of BombBomb, loved what they were up to. I was doing a bunch of project work at the time anyway, because I was bored of television, and ended up joining them. And it's been a really, really interesting journey. I was not as in touch with sales historically as I should be. I spent my first dozen years in my career with in a business that had two audiences. One was the advertiser, where the revenue is and what, the general manager of the station and what most people cared about most. But they also depended on what we generated, which was the viewing audience. And so this idea of having multiple audiences kept me a little bit away from the direct relationship between product, service, value, and revenue. And so the journey with BombBomb from 100 customers when I joined to over 55,000 today has been very, very interesting. And that journey has gone from selling one account to one professional at a time to selling large accounts in a kind of account-based marketing approach, to building relationships with the appropriate audiences, creating familiarity with the problem that we solve, which is not necessarily intuitive to everyone. I think as soon as you hear about it, you're like, oh yeah, we have been doing that. Oh yeah, maybe we should address that problem. So it's been a really fun and interesting journey for me. I came to it by circumstance more than design, and it's awesome. I think we're seeing so many trends in B2B marketing that are just a better way to operate than maybe we have been over the past 10 to 15 years.
Well, I think that's a great point. And some of the things that you were mentioning in there that we'll get into a little bit more clear is, I think, for me, it is the situation where you and what you're doing at BombBomb is doubly impacted. And what I mean by that is, first of all, you're helping the B2B digital marketer and marketers, period, with something that you are having to do yourself, which is build a relationship, build trust, make a sale. I mean, to me, it's like, hey, I'm doing what I'm having other people do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really fun. My role in particular, you mentioned my title, Chief Evangelist, which we don't have to spend a lot of time on, but I'm a step outside of marketing and sales directly, but all the work that I do is generating conversations, opportunities, awareness around the problem. And so it has been really interesting. So the problem we solve for people who are listening is that every day you're clicking send or machines are shooting emails out on your behalf. And it's true whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you're in customer success and customer support and customer service, whether you're in leadership or management. And so much of it is faceless digital communication. And so when you think about that, you think, okay, what's a better way? And of course, video allows us to be ourselves. I know you understand this. I know you're a practitioner and you know all the benefits of it, which we can detail if we want to. But part of what I'm doing in this B2B sales and marketing environment is just creating awareness that this problem exists, talking about some of the solutions, providing some training and education, but not in a, hey, sign up for this right now type of way. So it's a really unique position. It's fun to be in, and it gives me a different perspective on the work that B2B marketers and B2B salespeople are doing every day, while I'm also participating in it, as you said.
Well, and so for you, I mean, you're doing the long tail stuff, right? Which takes time. However, it is also some of the most important work when you start also thinking about stickiness, right? So it isn't just, hey, I signed up real quick and I have this thing because I got some special offer and, try it for 30 days or whatever the case may be. And then poof, it's gone, or you didn't modify your behavior, which I think is really important because you actually have a psychology background. And so when we start talking about B2B digital marketing, we want to stand out and we want to do something that causes people to, raise their curiosity level, draw them in, all of those things that are critically important. But we have to modify what we've been doing in order for that to happen. So tell us a little bit about some of the behavior modification that has to happen in order for people to fully leverage the value of what you're offering at BombBomb.
Yeah. So again, we have a tool set that allows you to easily record and send videos in emails, in text messages, in LinkedIn messages, in Facebook messages. Our primary philosophy and practice is around true one-to-one. Hey, Jim, it's Ethan. I just want to say thank you so much for the time on the podcast again today. When you asked me X, Y, or Z, I'm still thinking about it now. And it's just a really provocative question that I look forward to carrying throughout the week and into the weekend. I appreciate you so much. I love the way you think, and I look forward to this podcast releasing, right? A truly personal video message to do any of a variety of things that you need to do, things that you're sending blocks of plain typed out text to get the job done right now. And so when you think about that, my vision for it, and one of the reasons I started writing Rehumanize Your Business and was fortunate enough to be able to successfully rope Steve into participating in with me, is that I see this opportunity to go to the record button as part of what you do more broadly. It's just a go-to. Like, none of us thinks twice about opening up Gmail, hitting compose, and typing up an email and sending it. Generally, none of us thinks twice about picking up the phone and calling someone, whether it's our dentist or whether it's a potential customer or whether it's a teammate. None of us thinks twice about jumping on Zoom and chatting with a fellow team member or scheduling an appointment meeting by Zoom. We don't think twice about any of this stuff now. There was a day, years and years ago, it's about 100 or 110 years ago, when the sales huddle broke up, everyone turned around to go back to their desks, and there were these phones on the desks. People are like, what the heck is this about? Well, this is part of how you sell now, right? You don't stop sending letters and direct mail pieces and product catalogs to your potential customers and your customers. You don't stop showing up at their doorstep in 1910, 1920. You don't stop showing up at their doorstep. But by the way, some of what you do now is you use the telephone, and it allows you to reach more people more quickly and be able to talk to them, right? And so we think about that now. It sounds ludicrous to put it in those terms, but we don't think twice about that now. And that's where we are with this video messaging opportunity. I want it to be as common as these other things we're doing. Not that you do it all of the time. You don't stop doing these other things, but as you're relying on that send button, you're thinking, would this be better if I said it face to face? Would it help build trust and rapport in relationship? Would it help me communicate more clearly? Would it help me explain the situation more effectively? Would it allow someone to feel closer to me? Could I emote more effectively, whether I'm trying to mitigate a negative situation and break bad news or make an apology and be more clear because my sincerity, I'm not just typing out these words, I actually mean these words of apology. Or again, thank you, good job, congratulations. Customer, you hit a milestone. Employee, you've been with us 2 years. All of these things are opportunities. And so A lot of people will hear a podcast like this, or they'll join one of our webinars, or they'll talk to a friend who's doing it and they'll say, oh man, that's so awesome. And they'll maybe start the free trial, or they'll maybe buy a monthly or an annual subscription with us or one of the other companies that provides something approximately similar. And they'll do it a couple of times and they'll get a couple of wins, but 30 days later, are they still doing it? 90 days later, are they still doing it? 180 days later, are they still doing it? And I'll give it back to you here in a minute, but one of the most painful things I hear, and I hear it from time to time, is every time I use BombBomb, I make money, but gosh, I haven't used it in a while. So I know I didn't directly answer the question. I just wanted to tee it up there. But this idea of making it a habit, which we can go deeper into, I've got some very specific strategies based on working personally and directly with hundreds, if not thousands of people over the past decade. But you've pointed to the biggest challenge here is you understand, okay, I've been over-reliant on plain typed out text. Oh, I now understand that there are solutions to this problem. Oh, I've evaluated a couple different vendors and realized that I like this company or that company or BombBomb. And I'm going to subscribe and I'm going to actually try it out a couple of times. But how do we bridge that gap between I'm aware and I've tried it to this is how I operate now?
Okay, now you open the door, so yeah, I think you need to go a little bit further.
Say again?
I said I think you opened the door, so let's go a little bit further down the path. Well, how do I do that?
Sure. So, the key thing is knowing when is this going to be beneficial? And we have some frameworks around that. A very quick one that I won't spend a lot of time on is 3 things to look for. When you look at all of the touch points, let's just say you're a marketer and you're responsible for generating opportunities and moving them up to a particular point. Let's say it's whether a sales accepted lead, let's say, from an inbound opportunity or maybe even an outbound opportunity, depending on how your company is organized. Sometimes outbound is in sales, sometimes it's in marketing. And you want to move them from, I don't know that this problem exists, or I don't know that this company exists, or I don't know that this solution exists, to sales is ready, willing, and able to say, this is a sales accepted lead, and we'll take it from here. You've got a number of touch points there. And so a few things you're looking for to say video would be better than what I'm doing now. The first one is personal connection. Anytime I want to build a little bit of trust, rapport, relationship, I want someone to know there is a human behind this machine, or a human behind this website, or a human behind this logo, or a human behind this really shiny, well-written copy and graphics that are on this webpage or whatever. That's a great place to add a video. And you can use it in conjunction with a phone call, voicemail. You can use it as a follow-up to a form fill, and that can be truly personal or it can be evergreen. You can record it once and use it over and over again as someone does a particular action. It can be triggered automatically, or the act that a human becomes aware of can be the trigger for the human to send a truly personal or an evergreen video. There's so many ways to do that, but personal connection is one. Another one I already spoke to, which is emotion or tone, either very positive or very negative. When you send a block of text to somebody, our brains do not recognize it as being written by a human writer. Even when they see your email signature, maybe if you add a face to your email signature, they might start to tie that together. But in a natural, intuitive way, humans don't assign blocks of typed out text to a human being. And so when we send our messages in that way, we're giving away control of how that message is read as well. So if I send you a 2-paragraph email, Jim, about an opportunity or a question or something else that I'm corresponding with you about, your ability, the way that you read my message and take my intention and maybe even assign motivation is based on, did you just find out that a family member is ill? Or did you just find out that a family member just had an amazing win? Did you just have an amazing win yourself in your business? Or did you just find out that a client you've been working with has separated their relationship with you, right? So these things that are happening in your life dictate how these emails are received and read. And sometimes, especially in the negative, you don't want that associated with you and your name and the opportunity that you're presenting. So when you send it as a video, you get to control the emotion and tone. You get to control by emoting the message while you're saying the words. It's not just about the words, it's about how you're saying the words or how the words come across. And so you get to retain that control. So first is personal connection, second is emotion or tone, third is detail or complexity. You know where your clients are hanging up or your prospects are hanging up. Where are they confused? Where are they frustrated? When do people tend to reply and ask questions? Where are you in maybe a demo or a pitch where you see the confused look on their face, whether it's in person or over a video message? These are points where you can use video and potentially even a screen recording. There's screen recordings everywhere you are in BombBomb to show what's on a screen. You could walk someone through a presentation. You can walk someone through a report. You could walk someone through a contract. You can show and tell this to break down detail or complexity, or even just as a talking head. And what we're talking about here, by the way, I haven't mentioned this yet, is simple, casual, conversational videos. This is not about lights and scripts and editing and production and taking 2 months to get a script written, a script approved, to figure out who's going to be in the video, to get the shooter and the lighting person lined up, to get the video edited, to have it go in front of a committee, to have it go back into editing, to have it come back out, and now we can release this video to our prospects. This is 35 seconds, boom, done, sent, right? And so whether it's a talking head video or a screen recording video, you can break down detail or complexity. And so you need to look at those touch points and figure out where these videos belong and start with 1 or 2 opportunities. And so as to the question that got me here, I know I've been monologuing a bit. This is the single best place to start with this style of video, this casual, conversational, personal video. 2 videos a day. Make a commitment to spend 5 minutes or less sending 2 videos every day for a month. Let's say weekdays only. That's going to be about 20 to 25 videos, depending on the way the months and the days break. 2 videos a day, and all you're looking for is a family member, a friend, a coworker, a customer that you're really friendly with, or someone in your personal or professional network. And all you're looking to do is say thank you, good job, congratulations, I just noticed, I've been thinking about you, I'm concerned for you or worried about you, or I was sorry to hear, right? It doesn't all have to be positive. And all you need to do is look at your social media feeds, and they are loaded with timely and relevant reasons to reach out to people. And the reason you're going to start in this way is that the reason most people hate video the first time they try it is that they're their own harshest critic. They don't like the way they look and sound. They get all hung up. Did I say it right? Is my equipment good enough? Am I good enough? Is my lighting good enough? And all these other things that like our minds just start spinning on, and you quit before you ever start in earnest. By lowering the threat of sending out to a stranger or to someone anonymous, this isn't about putting it on your YouTube channel. It's not about putting it on your LinkedIn feed or LinkedIn profile. This is about a one-to-one video to someone you know and who knows you, someone you like and who likes you. And you're reaching out with a message that doesn't require a script. Really, none of these do. But it's, thank you so much for this kindness you've done for me. Be specific. Congratulations on this accomplishment or this good news that I saw that you achieved. It's a promotion. It's your daughter made captain of the volleyball team, whatever the case may be. And you're going to forge the habit, right, through repetition. You're going to get comfortable with your recording environment, whether it's BombBomb or another platform. You're going to get familiar with the software and the interface and some of that stuff that slows you down and makes you feel like you're not on top of the situation or that you're not a master of it, that hurts your ego. You'll knock some of that stuff down. You'll get comfortable seeing yourself and hearing yourself on camera. And most importantly, you're going to get, if you do this for 1 week, if you send 10 of these messages over the next Monday through Friday, I promise you, you will get at least 3 or 4 replies that say something like, oh my gosh, it was great to see you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for your email. By the way, no one has ever thanked you for your email before, unless maybe it contained like a legitimate amount of money that wasn't from like a Nigerian prince, right? And thank you so much for the video. It was great to see you. Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. You're going to see some all caps. You're going to see some exclamation points. You're going to see some emoticon smiley faces. And all they're trying to do is give back the unique energy that you were able to provide in that email by being yourself in a casual conversational video. And so start with people you know and who know you. Look at your processes, find one or two ways to start using video. As soon as you feel comfortable by doing that initial habit, start doing them in a proper full-on business context. And then over the next several months or several years, you're going to expand and you're going to have dozens of use cases, but it's important to start small and focus.
Well, and I think this is critically important at this time, also with all of us getting forced to be virtual and a lot of the face-to-face types of interactions going away when you start talking about the marketing and sales, processes and activities. And so for me, I also have to look at what we've been doing in the past, also what is, currently getting attention. And I start thinking about the whole hype, hey, I need to be doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so if I think about things that are overrated, given what we've been going through, what's one thing that you think is overrated that we need to rethink?
I think a lot of people are approaching personalization a little bit backward. I think personalization is good. It's a hot word. If you Google it or you search it on, or search the hashtag on LinkedIn or maybe even on Twitter, you'll get, it's hot. Personalization. It's all about personalization. I think it's a little bit backward because we take what we want, which is I'm targeting and I'm hunting. And then we use personalization to say, I'm going to find one or two nuggets about this person that allow me to have a reason. After I've already selected them, I'm going to use personalization as my justification for targeting this person. Whereas if we think about personalization in the form earlier in the process, right? I'm not looking for, I'm going after this guy because of his title and where he is in the country, and that's my territory to generate leads or opportunities. And so I'm going to go to his LinkedIn profile and I'm going to see that he went to college at Creighton in Omaha. And so I'm going to come up with some convoluted hook to Omaha or to Creighton, right? The fact of the matter is that dude showed up on your list, and so now you're trying to figure out the personalization element. I think if we do a better job being honest with ourselves and create good feedback loops with sales, with customer service and customer success about which customers are best, we can refine our personas a little bit more specifically. And the more specific we can get, the less convoluted, the less we have to stretch, the less we have to contort to personalize the message in hopes that they'll get it, because we are actually reaching out to the right person for the right reasons at approximately the right time. And the trick is then, you are reaching a smaller group of people, but when you do it the right way and with a more legitimate, I don't want to make any assumptions about anyone's ICP or the groups of people that they're reaching out to with emails and targeted ads and these other things. I would also say that intent, there are a lot of tools that are providing intent where people are in market, not just in your customer profile. That would add to this as well. So I guess I would say personalization in terms of, I have a long sales cycle and a very, very high dollar value product. So I'm going to go look at where she went to school and, send her a really nice hand-stitched blanket with her alma mater's logo on it or something, these assumptions that we're making in order to justify the fact that we want to reach these people, rather than really looking at what are the criteria that make this the time, make this the person, make this the right role, and make this type of company the right company for the problem we solve or the opportunity we provide.
Well, I think you make a great point, because oftentimes we think of the whole personalization that we do in marketing as some type of technology activity, and you actually just made it more of a human activity, like rehumanizing your brand, right? So perfect connection. All right, so when we start talking about where we have budget to spend from a digital marketing perspective, we have to really also think what we've been doing and versus what we have to do. So if I have still the same budget and I needed to do some reallocation, where would you take from and what would you place to?
Oh, gosh, that is so good. That's such a great question. I think the easiest thing to say is that attribution is so hard. I just had a conversation like this. It wasn't recorded for a podcast, but I was talking with another B2B marketer who has a B2B marketing podcast. And so he's talking with a bunch of people like you are and deeply steeped in this as you are. And attribution was such an important part of our conversation. Attribution is so difficult. So the easiest thing to say here is where attribution is easiest, you look at where you're doing paid spending and figuring out not just which one is producing the best cost per lead, but which one is producing the best cost per customer, and you can shuffle there. I think another place that I would invest time and energy and money, and you might do this with other teams depending on who else is doing it, but I don't think that we're talking to our customers enough. I think we're getting a lot of survey data. I think we're getting a lot of verbatims maybe in surveys that we might not be spending enough time with. And I definitely don't think that within most organizations that we're picking up the phone and talking with customers outside of a direct sales function or outside of a direct service or support function. And so I think marketing needs to be on the phone more, and that's more of an opportunity cost, right? Like which people need to be doing this and what activities are they going to be taking away from? I feel like I kind of cheated that answer a little bit, but I hope there was something of use to listeners there.
Well, as you were talking, for me, I started thinking about what I have run into with some of my clients is we have the discussion about sales and marketing, and then I expand it into client success or customer success or member success or whatever it is, and then it kind of goes quiet. And so for me, it's like, how are we doing what you're talking about? Connecting with those customers to be able to feed back, all of that into the very front end. It's not just the middle of funnel if we're talking about that as far as moving people down. It's also the whole awareness piece, because it's that insight that will allow you to feed that back to the front end and have some of those better conversions that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I will add one thing: the feedback loop. So typically we look at like cost per lead, or how much did it cost us to generate something that sales would accept, whatever that looks like, whatever you call it, whatever it looks like. And of course, the next step is to go, cost per customer, right? Like the ultimate conversion, like what, because there's some drop off from handoff to close. And then, we need to follow it into CS. And so another activity we might pursue that is a little bit like talking with more of your customers more often is lifetime value of the top 20% of your database that has the highest customer lifetime value, because they've been with you the longest, or they expanded their purchasing, or however you look at that. It's really hard to look at that population and say, okay, what were the lead sources and what were we doing in marketing that generated this opportunity 37 months ago or 54 months ago? So that attribution piece is really, really hard. But what we can do is look at who are these people? Why did they come to us? Let's get those people on the phone. What were some of their characteristics at the time of close if we can figure that out? What were some of the marks, what were some of the key points along their journey, either pre-sale or post-sale, that made them so successful? What are the characteristics that are common about these people? And then you start working a process of where can we find more people like that? Or where can we identify them earlier in the process? What does this top 20% look like at the sales accepted lead? I'm using that kind of generically to say at the point of handoff from marketing to sales. What is this type of person look like at that point? And what do they look like at the point of sale? And what are the most important characteristics of the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And how can marketing support service and success in that onboarding process? And so, we've been doing a lot of those things at BombBomb. Obviously, everything we do, I wish we were doing better. I think we do a pretty good job at a lot of different things. But, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, we have worked on some of these types of projects, and it really is critical that marketing is tied to the end result. I know that we want to high five each other. I know that people are punished and praised based on, lead generation and lead movement into the next phases of the process. But quality is more important than quantity. Obviously, when you start looking at cost per lifetime value or whatever, when you start looking at it that way, as opposed to just cost per lead, you start acting and behaving a lot differently. And there are so many efficiencies to be gained there in terms of your time, energy, and actual hard spend.
I think that's great. It's a great insight. And it's something that I think oftentimes we fall victim of because we get the pressure or the KPI of how many leads have you brought in today, right? Or this week or this month. Or I think that's an important point is, Okay, well, that is a metric, right? But then let's look at the pieces where it is sales accepted, it is converted, it is all of those things. The whole retention piece. I mean, those are more important components when you start talking about the proliferation of solutions today. I mean, I've got to make sure that I am the one that gets them and keeps them.
Yeah, I mean, you might see some of the raw numbers go down, and you should, in theory, if you are refining these things, you should see some of the conversion rates go up. And so if you are seeing the volume go down and the conversion rates stay flat, that is obviously not a sustainable situation. You need to work one or the other. But I think there's so much an overemphasis on the raw number and less of an emphasis on the conversion and the value of that conversion. And so, and I see the same thing in a lot of seats, especially as I'm talking with business development reps and sales development reps. There's a lot of what I call activity worship, where we're looking at, number of calls, number of emails sent, number of this, number of that, and not so much at the quality of those activities. And there's a give and take there. And I know it's easy to say, and I know it's a lot harder to do, but it's the kind of discipline that we need, because that is where the real efficiency comes. Like, especially if your total addressable market has some real limitations to it, you cannot afford to burn these opportunities. You can't afford to be reaching people in shallow and kind of stupid ways. You can't afford to be engaging people at times that are just plain wrong. You can't afford to be engaging accounts at the wrong place inside the organization, such that you're potentially denigrating your brand name and burning the opportunity with the right person. And so the smaller your total addressable market, the even more important all of this focus and emphasis and clarity and efficiency become.
That's so true. Okay, so now let's take the constraints off. We're not talking about, allocating funds and moving. We're saying, you know what, do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Resources, money, you can have it all. What would you look at investing in?
Customer research. Honestly, again, for all the reasons we've already talked about, it would be customer research. Within BombBomb, I want to know more about, we have sales and marketing personas. I want product usage personas. I want to know what are the 4 or 5 categories of the different ways people engage. I know that when someone signs up for BombBomb, I have and this is intuitive, there's like an 80-20 rule. 80% of the value comes from 20% of the environment. You, Jim, I have not analyzed your account from an administrative dashboard perspective, but I know you've sent a lot of videos. If you fit with what I've observed with some of our best customers over the years, you're probably sending 80% of your videos from Gmail, for example. We work directly in the Gmail inbox, or from the iPhone app or the Android app. Or you might be doing 80% of your video recording and sending with the Salesforce integration. And so it's this, what is this path from I get the idea to now I am successful, I'm doing it habitually, and where am I doing it? If you are an iPhone app user, what is your coincidence using the Google Chrome extension to record and drop videos into LinkedIn or into Slack or some of these other ways to use it? And that will allow us to onboard people so much more effectively. Hey, it looks like you're doing this. You might also like to do that. Not because there are like 15 different places and ways to record and send videos with BombBomb. We need to figure out the fastest way to help you find your best situation, find your best use cases. We could have spent this entire time together just talking about use cases across the customer lifecycle. We could spend another 45 minutes or an hour talking use cases across the employee life cycle to find better employees, to engage them, to get them to choose you and your company, to onboard them successfully, to coach and train and develop them, to turn them into your source of all of your next best employees, just like we want to turn our customers into our next source of our next best customers. We could also talk about how to use it within your personal and professional networks. There's so many ways to use this and so many different types of people that we serve that I would use it to deep, thorough analysis of our customer database, who's successful, who isn't. And it's just hard to do that when we're we're not growing as fast as we were when we hit the Inc. 5000. I mean, you got to have triple digit growth there. And, but we're still growing very, very aggressively. We are still a bootstrapped company. We're still more ambitious than we are resourced, and I think most healthy companies are. I think if you have more resources than you do ambition, there's something wrong and you're not going to be operating very well or very long. And so, it's hard to carve out. We don't have a team dedicated to this. We do have a business intelligence team, but they're analyzing all kinds of stuff for all kinds of stakeholders. We do have research going on inside marketing. We have research going on inside product, but it's hard to do all this. So if I had, a couple headcount or a chunk of cash to hire a contractor, that would be where I would spend more money. I wouldn't necessarily spend it on more ads, because you could take the exact same ad spend and generate, you could dramatically, if you had some of the types of things I was talking about in terms of customer understanding for your product or your service, you would be able to probably dramatically increase lifetime value or dramatically increase referrals. You could probably dramatically increase conversion to customer, because you would have more refined prescriptions for people. We would probably create a better trial experience that would get people to convert automatically more often. You would probably create more success in that first 30 to 90 days. There's so many benefits to it that, even if you kept the same raw number coming in, same website visits, same conversion on page, same number of direct purchasing, same number of free trials, same number of demo requests, we would generate so much more value for the customer and so much more value for the business. I think we're again, this is thematic to the raw number activity worship theme that I've been talking to.
Well, and the reality is you gave multiple, points to where we can now take and change what we've been doing. And that's what we're talking about is, not just rehumanizing, but doing things that are necessary in order for us to stand out and then disrupt our marketplace. So I have to ask, from a psychology perspective, from a business perspective, from a process perspective, everything that we've talked about, people have to stop and ask themselves a certain question before they take the step in the right direction. So what should a B2B digital marketer be asking themselves?
I'm going to steal this one from a great book that I read recently by Matt Sweezy of Salesforce. He's been there for years. He's a marketing researcher there. I think his current title is Director of Market Strategy at Salesforce. And he wrote a great book called The Context Marketing Revolution. And he also has a fantastic short podcast series that's beautifully produced. It's like 8 or 9 episodes called The Electronic Propaganda Society. And the whole premise of it isn't how do I make my marketing more effective? The premise is why isn't my marketing working? And he calls for a new definition of marketing. And so I think that question is super, super provocative. I heard the podcast series before the book was released, and they really complement each other nicely. I think if we're really, really honest with ourselves and we look at the conversion rates on our ads, when we look at the conversion rates on our web pages, we can optimize them and create a continual iteration process where over time we can push it from 2.37% to 3.64% and move real revenue. We can actually do that. But he calls for something so much more interesting and provocative, which is why isn't marketing working? I'm going to lose, I don't have at the top of my head some of the bigger numbers he offers, but ultimately our success rate is, when you take that 2.37% and then move that through the other points of conversion to a point of sale, and then ultimately to a point of retention, we're failing at a massive, massive rate. We might be doing slightly better than we were before, but ultimately, some tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of people who we initially engaged with are actually continuing to see value and understand what we're doing and say yes again, right? That's what we want. We want just a series of yeses. So people stop saying yes at different points in the process, even post-sale. And so I think the ultimate question is, why isn't our marketing working? And if you don't buy that or it doesn't make sense to you, again, I encourage you to check out the Context Marketing Revolution or the Electronic Propaganda Society. And the theory is we've entered a new age of infinite media as opposed to limited media. And we've all seen this before. When you think about spammers, they're typically approaching email marketing like they were approaching direct mail. I have an address, therefore I can send to it. I can send to it as often as I want. Well, hitting my physical mail box on the front of my house has a lot of different implications, and it's culturally different. It's emotionally different than hitting my email inbox, and it's definitely different than hitting my text messages. I hate, and I'm sure you do too, I hate getting unsolicited text messages even more than I hate getting unsolicited email, which I hate more than I hate getting unsolicited direct mail or mail in my mailbox. And so, we come to these opportunities with the old models. And so he's really calling for a complete teardown or reevaluation. And I think most people listening to a show like this would find it interesting and provocative, and would cause them to be very reflective about what they're doing and what they're not doing, what they would do if they had an extra 10 grand or 100 grand, or if they had to take 25 grand from somewhere and put that 25 grand somewhere else, how they would do that. I think this would be provocative in that process.
Ethan, I had a fun time with you today. Can you please share with the B2B DM gang how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I welcome direct communication. It's Ethan, ETHAN, at BombBomb.com. I welcome a connection on LinkedIn, especially with a note. My last name is spelled Beute. It's Ethan Beute on LinkedIn. And you can learn more about the book and more about us at BombBomb.com or BombBomb.com/book.
Now, for those of you who have listened to this episode, please go and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe this episode. Fantastic. Ethan, thanks for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we wish you the very best.
Man, thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate it, and best to all the listeners.
Thank you for joining us. Go now to join the B2B DM gang in the B2B Marketer LinkedIn group, where you can connect with other B2B DM disruptors and get access to our B2B DM cheat sheets, checklist, and guides. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, please help by going to iTunes to rate, review, and subscribe. And share the show on all of your digital platforms. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. And always remember, you can automate your lead capture, but you must lure your lead.